everyone's favourite part of our show is not the relaxed banter, it is obviously the pre-recorded segments. So my guest, Geraint, is here with one of his pre-recorded segments. So Geraint was able to go to Mar-A-Lago, the famous golf club in
America.
It's
in Florida, isn't it?
The famous Floridan golf club, and interview one of the greats of rock and roll. I don't really need to give this guy an introduction because I think he's going to speak for himself in the interview. But Geraint was able to talk to the leader of the Beach Boys, Mike Love, in an exclusive interview. We've had some harsh words for Mr. Love on the podcast before, so I was not granted entry to Mar-A-Lago. I did go to Florida. I paid my way there. Geraint, again, Mike Love paid for Geraint to go to Florida. I went out there in the name of whatever we do at the RP Corps, a multimedia conglomerate.
Yep.
I went there in the name of multimedia conglomerate, and I was roundly turned away and had to just, I spent the night, wandering the streets of Florida, surrounded by Florida men, the worst men of all. But Geraint, anyway, he went into this illustrious golf club, and he spoke to, again, one of the inventors of rock and roll, one of the originators of the form, the leader, the lead songwriter, the lead singer, the founding member of the Beach Boys, Mike Love.
You'd have to say the creative mastermind of the group as well.
Yeah. So over to our man in Florida. You could literally put in the on cinema Greg cutaway music in there or something. Well, over to you anyway.
Okay.
Round, get around, I get around. Yeah.
So, Mike Love, it's an honour to finally meet you.
Hello, young man.
Hello. So, you're obviously still touring.
The leader of the Beach Boys.
The leader of the Beach Boys.
The creative mastermind of the Beach Boys.
The backbone of the Beach Boys, man.
The backbone. My penis.
You've been touring now for many decades and still going strong.
So many decades, and do people talk about it? Do people give Mike Love for credit for being out on the road all these years? No. I mean, look at some of my peers. Look at some of the greatest artists of the 1960s rock and roll, man. Look at Paul McCartney. What's he doing? Look at Bob Dylan. When did Bob Dylan ever go out on the road? When is Bob Dylan out there touring? What was he doing Okay, Bob Dylan may have just started his tour in 2024. He may have played gigs in 2023. He may have spent all of 2022 on the road, but what was he doing? Apart from that small window at the end of 2021 where he was on the road, what was he doing? What was Bob Dylan doing with himself, this asshole, in the years 2020 and 2021? When I was out on the road every night, where was he? But I'm asking you, this is a question. You may not have done these interviews before where the guest, the interviewee turns interviewer, but I'm putting you on the spot.
I don't know where Bob Dylan was during those years. You'd have to ask my friend Jack, who have all sorts of illegal bootlegs as evidence of it. But
well, I'm looking at Setlist FM now. I can cross-reference this with the Bob Dylan sites, but I'm not seeing any shows for 2020. I'm not seeing any shows for 2021. You know how many shows the Beach Boys did in 2020 and in 2021, man?
I'm gonna say lots.
We did 600.
600?
And 600 and 720. We did 700 and 730 gigs in those 2 years. We picked up the slack from the rest of the industry.
So no days off.
No days off. No shit on our fucking faces. None of that fucking bullshit. You know, you go to see fucking, I don't know, Brian fucking Wilson or something. Yeah, they're all on their stage. They're standing apart from each other. They're not interacting. They're not getting the music, the vibes that we get in the Beach Boys.
Did you not lose money when people weren't allowed to come out to the shows in any numbers because of the lockdown?
No, we doubled down. More shows. We made up for the loss. That's how you do it. Everybody else, they said, I'm just going to sit at home. We did it different. I don't care. I'll be on the road till the day I die. Not that I think that's going to happen anytime soon, but we can get to that.
And
this will be a lengthy conversation.
what drives you after all these years? You must have made a lot of money to not
yes.
need to do it anymore. So what motivates you to keep performing live after so many decades?
Well, there's only so many times in a day that one can masturbate. And that's really the secret. That's what drives me at the end of the day, the masturbation. But I mean, you can sustain, especially if you're a man of my age, you can sustain injuries and so forth. So it's not that there's a problem doing it at all, because of course it's fully functional. But you need to you need to rest, and I find that when I'm in that space of mind, a long day of what I believe you guys call wanking, that's when the music energy really starts flowing. That's when I'm feeling the good vibrations, to quote one of my band's Lesser Efforts by my cousin.
Okay, and that ties into one of the great unconfirmed rumours of Beach Boys fandom, which was that the hit record Kokomo came about after what can only be described as a fortnight-long masturbation binge.
Yeah. It was on the yacht of my good friend Jimmy Buffett. It was me. It was Jimmy. It was Jimmy's wife. It was the former MP for Ilford South, Mike Gapes. We were on the yacht with Mr. Buffett, and those three, you know what those three are like. Mr. Buffett and Mr. R.I.P. Of course, it's been a sad year for all of us who are close friends to Mr. Buffett. Just like when our friend Jeffrey was lost a few years ago. And then, of course, all those other people who were material witnesses to some of our parties, many friends among them. That was a sad loss as well. But Jimmy and Mrs. Buffett and Mr. Gapes, they had a simpatico relationship. So they'd be getting down and dirty, real groovy times, if you know what I'm saying. And, that would kind of leave me as the odd one out. But obviously I was bitter about it on a personal level. I felt slighted. But in terms of what gets me off, I don't need any of those other people. Me and little Mike. Big Mike, he was knee deep in Mr. and Mrs. Buffett, but me myself, I got more than enough going on down there, to keep myself entertained. And so yes, I was on a yacht, and that's how I wrote Kokomo, a 4-week-long masturbation fest.
Sounds great. And this
The
particular...
boat ran adrift at one point. We ran out of fuel. Mr. Gapes and Mr. Buffett, I think there was a helicopter and they got out and they went away to some kind of island. And I didn't even notice. I was just floating on the high seas, watching myself. I mean, I'd lost about 17 pounds of body weight by the end of it. I looked in the fridge and there was just milk. It was just milk and pina coladas. Luckily, I ran ashore, and that's when I was taken to hospital. Of course, I didn't have the pina coladas because I'm a clean living individual, but I had to have lots of the milk.
And obviously our listeners will understand as well from that, very knowledgeable rock and roll people, of course, that scene as described by Mike Love with his travelling companions there, a particular act carried out by Mike Gapes during that also directly inspired the hit song Cheeseburger in Paradise. So it's a hell of a productive trip in general there. Put that boat in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I mean, put the boat in there, you go on the boat and with a little, one of those little things that the police collect DNA and so forth with, and, bag it up and stick that frame that in a jar, that's what I think, because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they've not inducted the Beach Boys. Okay, so they inducted the Beach Boys, the old Beach Boys, the group, with the Wilsons and, various ne'er-do-wells, drug addicts,
the proto
hippies,
Beach Boys before
Satanists.
you really streamlined the act.
The proto Beach Boys. Well, now again, that was Brian's thing. When are the Beach Boys, the post 1996 Beach Boys, the Beach Boys of Stars and Stripes Volume 1, the Beach Boys of Mike Love, Bruce Johnston, and Al Jardine of David Marks of the Beach Boys Salute NASCAR. The work that I'm most proud of. This is an era of rock and roll that transcends the achievements of what was, almost another group with the same name. Although obviously this is the real Beach Boys. This is the true Beach Boys. This is the only Beach Boys. The Beach Boys that you see on the road, being Bruce Johnston and occasionally David Marks, especially on the NASCAR project, which I'm very proud of. But so I lost my train of thought because of how proud I am of the NASCAR project. But this has been a very influential creative period. And you gonna and listen, people say the Beach Boys are a band. Well, no. The Beach Boys are a philosophy. First and foremost, the Beach Boys are philosophy. Beaches, babes, surfing, cars, NASCAR. That is what the Beach Boys is all about. But more than that, the Beach Boys, they're not a band. They're a vocal group. Are you gonna tell me that my cousin Brian is a better singer than John Stamos? Go on. Again, I am putting you on the spot here. You from the liberal media. Why don't you tell me?
Well, probably not today, he's not, no.
Historically speaking, Stamos has the golden voice. He can play drums. He's a great actor. Can my cousin Brian act? Is he when did Hollywood go calling him? And Stamos? Now that's an artist. That's an artist. That's a guy who's channeling the spirit of the originators of the 60s, the Beach Boys, the Dave Clark Five, Herman's Hermits, the bands that set the template for what rock and roll is. So more questions, please.
Yes. So what's next then for the real true Beach Boys?
Well, I'm thinking that because I contain multitudes, I'm thinking of writing a song called I Contain Multitudes for a start. I'm a very well-read man.
I think there's a fridge on a yacht that would attest to that statement, yeah.
There's a multitudes. I certainly did contain multitudes of milk after that incident, but my stomach was pumped, and the lyrics to Kokomo came to me in a dream in the hospital, and the rest is history. First of all, that's the song I'm thinking of. I play a variety of instruments: shakers, tambourine. I experimented with synths in the 80s and drum programming. I have a steel drum in my yard. It may be a bit wet. It's been raining, but I write on all different instruments. I think I'm gonna get the steel drum out for this one, and because I'm very well read. I've read everybody. I've read books about transcendental meditation. I've read the Masturbation Kama Sutra. It's the version that's just for one person. And I'm a fan of Walt Whitman. I saw an inspirational quote by Walt Whitman when I was on Facebook. I'd just seen some. I was getting heated about Podesta and Gavin Newsom and all these rats. but just a little ray of light, came across, and I saw a quote from Walt Whitman. It said, "I am large. I contain multitudes." I thought, I am large as well. I'm a large figure in the popular culture. So I'm gonna write that song, and I think I'm gonna put that on my next solo album, because like I say, I contain multitudes. I am not just the Beach Boys. I am the Beach Boys, but I am not just the Beach Boys. And so there was such a positive response to my 3 solo albums: 2017's Unleash for Love, 2018's Reason of the Season, and 2019's 12 Sides of the Sun and 12 Sides of Summer and 2023's Mike Love Not War, my 4 solo albums that I believe I'm gonna have to venture forth without the other Beach Boys, Bruce Johnston, the other Beach Boys, and I'm gonna make something. I'm gonna see if NASCAR are interested, but I think the songs are gonna be new songs, a contemporary sound, but with a classic feel.
Okay, yeah, and how's that going to differ from the last few Beach Boys albums?
Well, the last Beach Boys album, you may recall, was 2012's That's Why God Made the Radio, and that was an album that was largely written by my cousin Brian. So it was this kind of prog rock, a highfalutin, drug-influenced, liberal hippie sort of thing. I was pleased that we got to work with John Bon Jovi on co-writing one of the tracks, but Brian just made it sound like everything else Brian does, just this sad shit about fucking I'm gonna not masturbate. I'm gonna, I'm too disciplined to masturbate. I'm above masturbation somehow. Mike Love is a lesser person than me. I look down upon Mike Love because he masturbates frequently. That kind of thing. Just, how Brian is. So I'm gonna bring a new spirit to this, a contemporary sound, but with a with a classic feel. But it's going to be all Mike Love. Take an album that people really love. Stars and Stripes Volume 1. Summer in Paradise from 1992. That's an album that people really love. And then take an album that is kind of for freaks and weirdos and people who take drugs and people who don't do transcendental. People who do transcendental meditation but vote Democrat and liberals and people who vote Democrat.
You were going to be referencing an album.
But I forgot the name of this album because it's really one of the lesser items in our catalog. But the one we did in '66, the Pet Sounds record, it's almost, it feels like another era. I'm about what's happening today. I'm about, Mike Love Not War. I'm about 12 Sides of Summer. I'm not thinking about Pet Sounds. But on that record, what was it people liked about that record?
I think mainly the pet sounds on it, the animal noises.
What? Very astute, sir, because we're gonna have cows. In fact, I'm reuniting with a guy who pressured me into giving him a co-writing credit on Kokomo, despite the fact that he was on the deck of the boat the whole time with the Buffets, but Mr. Gates will be returning to the fold, the Beach Boys fold. He's always been an honorary Beach Boy. We met at a Johnny Polio concert at the Ilford South Mecca Dance Hall, chaired by Jimmy Seville in 1963, I believe. But he will be providing the cow sounds. And to answer my question, what I think people liked the most about Pet Sounds was the lyrics that I contributed. Good night, my baby. Sleep tight, my baby. That's when you think of Wouldn't It Be Nice. What are the lyrics to that? You don't remember. You don't remember until right at the end. Good night, my baby. Sleep tight, my baby. And it's sung by a man who sounds like a man, a real man. Man's singing a little bit through his nose like a man does. Not in a high voice, like someone who's gay. So, I'm back.
You're here, of course, for this golf tournament. Who are you going to be playing with tomorrow?
I'm going to be playing against Tiger Woods and all the great golf players. I'm going to be playing with Mr. Trump, with Alan Dershowitz. He'll be joining us. Alan,
Okay, yeah.
Alan has helped me sue my cousin Brian at a number of times, at which Brian was especially mentally vulnerable, and it was a prime time to strike. So me and Alan, we go way back. Who else plays? We certainly won't be seeing Larry David there. I know he's a known golf enthusiast, but also a known
Doesn't get on with Alan, does he?
cultural Marxist, a global. Let's move on. He won't be in attendance at Mar-A-Lago. I don't believe he's allowed, and we will be raising a toast to our friend Jimmy Buffett, a longtime Beach Boys associate, the great backing vocalist on my favorite song by a lesser California band, the Eagles, The Greeks Don't Want No Freaks, a song that resonated with me due to my agreement with the policies on hippies and other left-wing subversives of the Greek junta in the 1960s. And, I may get up on stage. All the band are there. We've just come back from a whale hunting festival with all the great whale hunters, non-Chinese, of course. This was an American whale hunting festival. But we may get up on stage. I'm thinking, because of all the colleges and the cultural Marxism and the the extremists and the Islamists and in the colleges and the Harvard and I'm thinking we may play a student demonstration time. There's a lot of people
Very timely, yeah.
Very timely, because if you recall, the message of that song was don't bother going to protests and don't go out in the streets, because the police will beat you up, and they'll probably have a pretty good point in doing so. And that seems like a message that speaks to us now more than ever.
Yes.
Because you have the Islamists, you have the Jews, you have Sikhs out on the street. They're all out there. They're taking over.
Have you got anything you'd like to say to the protesters on the streets of Britain, of the US, of countries across the world at the moment? Is there any message you'd like to give them as a titan of pop culture like yourself?
Wouldn't you guys rather be out on the beach with a beautiful babe in one arm, a non-alcoholic beverage on the other, doing a little bit of TM, maybe put the babe aside, have a little bit of masturbation? Wouldn't you rather be doing that than being out in the freezing cold, talking about jihad and halal and arranged marriages and whatever it is that the people of I haven't been to these things, I went in the 60s a couple of times to give names to the FBI, but it's been a long time. That would have been my cousin Brian's kind of thing if he wasn't such a shut-in loser freak kind of person that my Greek friends didn't want none of. I would say to these people, why not go surfing? Because the historical record has said that Mike Love doesn't know how to surf. He's not a surfer. He has never surfed. That is a lie. I was the first member of the Beach Boys to surf. I stopped doing it because my aptitude at it was so intimidating to the other surfers on the beach who were just trying to have a good time. They didn't want competitive sports, So I settled for having just one-in-one competitive sport, the competitive sport of rock and roll. And I suggest, if you want to be out there preaching hate, I don't want any of that, because the Beach Boys, that's against the philosophy of the Beach Boys, man. The Beach Boys have always been about peace and love. My cousin Dennis, he, we've always been about peace and love, but in moderation. We don't think you should take peace and love too far. I mean, my cousin Dennis, he showed us the so-called horseshoe theory of how when you become so far left, you become a hippie, you take lots of drugs, you're having sex with women instead of masturbating like you should do. You move so far to the left that you fall in with a rabble like Charlie Manson's so-called family, take it from a real expert on family. You know, me, my cousins, the famously fantastic relationship. There is really no difference between being a hippie like Dennis, who took drugs, who didn't sort out his own problem with his seed, who didn't take it upon himself to unleash those demons from his body. You do that, you may as well tattoo a swastika into your head. You may as well walk up to a black guy in the street and murder him. There is just one road that communism leads down, and that road is not in line with the values of the Beach Boys.
Thank you. A powerful statement there of tolerance and moderation. I'm sure that... God, I've lost my freaking train of thought on that one.
I'm happy to elaborate on my theories on the liberatory properties of masturbation, if you would like.
There's nothing I'd like more.
Unfortunately, that part of the interview was lost.
Expunged, seized at customs on my return.